Ciao friends, I got up today and decided I wanted to make people angry, so today I'm doing a F1 commentator tier list. Yes, I know Tomo already did one of these, but I don't care. And obviously it's only going to focus on commentators that I have some experience in, that I've watched races from, gonna focus on F1 as well. And recently we found out that Billy Munger, who does some of the commentary on Channel 4, had a positive COVID-19 test, and the other commentators had to isolate as well. So obviously wishing him all of the best and hope that he and everyone else tests negative as soon as possible if they haven't already. So let's get the classics out of the way. Murray Walker, undisputable, S tier. Did BBC, think he did ITV as well, came back a little when the BBC returned. If anyone disagrees with this, fight me. Murray Walker defined Formula 1, he is the voice of the sport and is sorely missed. He co-commentated with James Hunt, also S tier. The man was ridiculous, he was a sex-addicted, alcoholic maniac. Murray Walker and James Hunt had to share a microphone because they argued too much about who was talking at any given time. My favourite line of James Hunt was in one of the Australian Grand Prix where he thanked the sponsor Foster's because he'd been enjoying their product all weekend. S tier. Likewise in S tier, Martin Brundle, the man that took over from James Hunt and is still commentating to this day. The only reason Martin Brundle was even a commentator is because they couldn't find James Hunt one day because he was too much of an alcoholic. Martin Brundle had retired from the race, so they just drug him in and made him commentate. And he hasn't really stopped since. Of course, commentated alongside Murray Walker until he retired in 2001, and Brundle has survived all of the transition changes from the BBC to ITV to the BBC to Sky and all of that crap. S tier, Martin Brundle. After Murray Walker retired, ITV got in James Allen, who was significantly worse. He has a couple of memorable quotes, but he's not exactly the best commentator in the world on a turn-by-turn basis. It says a lot that his most memorable line is from the last race he ever commentated. D tier. The BBC took over in 2009, and instead of keeping Mr. Allen on, they got Jonathan Legard in, and Jonathan Legard is even worse. If you have ever had a complaint about a modern Formula 1 commentator, please go and remind yourself of what Jonathan Legard was like. F tier. So when Sky took over, one of the only things that they did was nab David Croft from BBC Radio 5 to commentate instead. And yes, Crofty has had a lot of criticism and a lot of people find fault in the way that he commentates. They call him loud. But personally, I don't think that's such a bad thing, especially when the alternatives are people like Alex Jakes. David Croft, A tier. Speaking of Alex Jakes, who has recently gone to Channel 4 after being on the pit lane channel for forever, Alex Jakes seems to get a lot of respect around the F1 communities as a commentator, and I don't think he's particularly bad, but he doesn't really do anything for me, so he's like C tier. Especially when you have people like Jack Nicholls, who is the lead commentator for Formula E and currently commentates the Formula 1 on BBC Radio 5 whenever there isn't a Formula E race on. I think the way that Jack Nicholls injects energy into a sport without making too many mistakes and stumbling over his words is almost unparalleled. S tier. I would love to see him take over from David Croft when he's decided to call it a day. But let's head back to Sky F1 for a bit and mention Karoon Chandok. Karoon Chandok has found more success on Sky than he ever did in either Formula 1 or Formula E, but he's very good as a commentator, all things considered. He may not be a lead commentator or even a regular star, he's more of a pundit as well anyway, but when he does make an appearance, it is usually worth tuning into. Karoon Chandok, A tier. Unlike Paul di Resta. I cannot stand Paul di Resta. I think he's annoying, I don't think he's a good commentator. D tier. And the only other person from the Sky stable that I really want to mention today is the man that this channel is named after. Ted Kravitz. Not technically a commentator, he's a pit lane reporter, but he's been doing it forever, following the sport from at least ITV to BBC to Sky. One of the funniest men in the paddock and never afraid to speak his mind. S++++++++ tier. Hopping over to the commentators employed by Formula 1 again, though, we have to mention Will Buxton's career as a commentator, which is glorious. If you have not seen the compilations of Will Buxton's commentary, there are some absolute classics in there. But he doesn't currently do it unless you include, like, testing. So we'll talk about the pit lane channel now. Since Alex Jakes left, it seems like they've been cycling between Tom Gaymore, who is like E tier. He's just actually not very good. He likes to repeat what his co-commentators have said, even though they just said it, and really just give completely useless information and is otherwise just not really important. And Rosanna Tennant, who I think is a little bit better. She does try and at least have a little bit of banter with the other commentators and keep it light-hearted, although she probably gives a little bit too much information, but I think that's mainly just due to her not being particularly experienced in Formula 1 commentating yet. Rosanna Tennant is B tier. But alongside them is often Alex Brundle, Martin's son, who is pretty much like Martin Brundle, but younger. So there is no way I can really rank Alex Brundle anywhere else but A tier, because, well, you know, he's effectively the same thing again. They've also recently been using Matt Gallagher off of WTF1 and this.
They crashed into Ricardo.
Oh, come on, you fucking idiots! Oh
I'm
my
actually...
God, Verline, you do not deserve the seat at Mercedes, you fat swat!
And quite frankly, he gets a lot of hate, and I think that's mainly just due to the stigma attached to him being WTF1's, you know, lead host and everything. But honestly, he does quite a good job, and he gets on with the other commentators pretty well. I think Matt Gallagher is B tier, hopefully a little bit more experience. That might even bump that up a little. And the other voice you hear on there often is Sam Collins, the guy that does Tech Talk, and also has time to be a counsellor, which is pretty impressive in itself. The amount of engineering and technical insight that that man is able to give in a fluid and dynamic and interesting way is almost unmatched, I believe, and that puts him as well in S tier. That's all of the people I had written down. Tell me what you think about all of them and anyone else down in the comments below. We're getting really, really close to 500 subscribers on this channel right now, so if you haven't already, please consider subscribing down below and liking the video. If you know anyone else that might like it as well, maybe share it with them on, like, Discord or Reddit. You can also check out the shirts at the link in the description. If you buy one, you will get one that I haven't worn. Thank you all so very much for watching, and I will see you next time.